Like, I feel like a lot of times the misconception is that, okay, if everyone's inherently worthy, we're just gonna like have a bunch of like entitled, spoiled brats going around on this earth, right? Like, that's the shadow aspect of that. But no, think about it. If everyone went around acting like, or just knowing that they are inherently worthy, we wouldn't have people acting from hurt. We wouldn't have these traumatizing things happening as much. At least that's what I believe, because people wouldn't be acting from their wounds and their trauma in that sense of feeling unworthy. So many perceived hurtful and ugly things happen because people feel unworthy. A lot of times that can be the motivator to do some pretty yucky things, is we just don't feel worthy and we're trying to find our worthiness in these externals when it truly always comes from within, and we just have to remember and embody that. Welcome to Alignment Adventures. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Linda Tanner, and I am so grateful that you are here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Alignment Adventures. I'm so grateful and so just full of joy that you are here with me today. Before I get started, I feel like I always forget to mention little things, little updates here and there. But the first update I want to mention, which by the way, you're going to hear birds in the background because I have my windows open because it is just beautiful in Arizona right now, and it feels so good to have the breeze blowing on me and feeling that fresh air. But anyways, the first update is that I created a separate Facebook page for the podcast. Just search Alignment Adventures Podcast on Facebook and you can join that page. That way I'm not posting about the episodes every week on my personal page. I wanted to have a separate space and just kind of helps consolidate things in my brain. So if you're interested in getting updates there, go give that a follow or a like or whatever you do with pages on Facebook. And then, as you know, this isn't new, but just a reminder, the podcast does have its own Instagram page as well, Alignment Adventures Podcast. It's linked to my page. They're linked back and forth in the bio, so you can easily find it there. I always love when you guys tag me or the podcast in any takeaways you have from the episode. I just love seeing what resonates with you. So that's a perfect place to do that. The second thing I want to mention is that the podcast got a new cover, which I'm sure you've noticed. I guess we recently had a photo shoot with Brittany Fuentes. I actually work with her and she's a beautiful, so talented photographer, and we got some family photos done just to, capture this time and space and the beautiful desert. And then I just had a few pictures of myself taken because I really wanted to update my podcast cover photo. I mean, I love the humble beginnings of the podcast photo of me in the Grand Canyon. I think my stepsister took that picture. But it's fun to update it too with something that just looks a little bit more professional. But the first podcast photo will always have a special place in my heart. So I think those are all the updates. So let's get into today's topic. As you guys know, I've been so interested in researching how the seasons of the year, either like where the planet is in the solar system, like the winter solstice, the spring equinox, summer solstice, autumn equinox, and as well as the zodiac seasons. It just really feels resonant to research those and implement them. So I want to connect today's topic to that. As you guys know, or may not know, this week, so like the day after this is being released, the 21st is the spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere. So for spring equinox, it really makes sense what it symbolizes, right? But it's rebirth, literally and figuratively, like the earth is coming back alive. It's been dormant, quote unquote dead throughout the winter, and it's coming back to life. We are planting seeds. It's rejuvenating, rebirth, fertility, and like the metaphorical aspect of like planting new seeds in our lives. We may have new ideas, new projects, new initiatives, new choices, whatever it may be, but it's really like just a rejuvenating time. There's so much beauty in spring energy, and I'm sure those of you that truly do experience seasons, we do to a degree here in Arizona, but not as dramatic as, like, say, where I grew up in the Midwest. But if you're somewhere where you are experiencing the seasons, spring just feels so good. So I hope you're really tuning into that energy. And as I mentioned last week, I do have a spring equinox yoga flow that I uploaded, so go check that out. I just coordinate some yoga moves and a yoga flow to those themes so you can really help embody them, because we are holistic beings, mind, body, spirit, it's all connected. But with that, something that's been coming up for me a lot recently is this idea of being unproductive. I feel like the idea of being unproductive has such a negative connotation in our society. You're lazy, you're not getting stuff done. There's always things to be done, especially, as if you have a job or if you have a family, you feel like there's always something to be done. Like, that list is never going to be crossed off. Can we just acknowledge that? There's always things that we could, or my least favorite word, should be doing. But I've really been trying to reframe that unproductive feeling in my mind. I think there's so much beauty in slowing down and pausing. Slowing down and pausing to realign, to tune back in, using your breath. That is like huge in living your most aligning life, and living in a life that fulfills you and is present and truly makes you happy. It's just slowing down, and with that comes quote unquote unproductivity. So I really just want to bring some awareness to this topic, because like I said, it's such a societal norm, and our brains are wired this way. Like, through evolution or whatever it may be, we get like a serotonin hit from those to-do lists and productivity. Like, I still am a list person just because I feel like it helps me organize things in my brain. And I used to be a huge like paper planner person, and there's just such a beautiful hit of, I guess, serotonin it is, from what I've read, when you cross something off your list. You just feel so good, right? And I don't want to say, like, don't go and do things, don't be productive. Like, I don't want to make that the enemy here, because that's not what I'm saying at all. But let's shift that to a word I like to use a lot and that I've heard a lot: aligned actions. What are actions that align with the things that your internal guidance is nudging you to do? What are those little things that you felt like you should be doing, but maybe you've been putting off or procrastinating or self-sabotaging or convincing yourself you're not worthy of it, or that you wouldn't be good at it, that you want to try, or that you want to do, or that you want to watch, or that whatever it may be? Tune into those aligned actions. Less of the shoulds, more of the aligned actions. And connected to what we talked about last week, there's so much beauty too in doing the things that are a little bit scary. And a lot of times those are the aligned actions. So I always feel like a good guiding post for us are the things that excite us and the things that scare us. Those are always beautiful places to explore with patience and compassion and awareness when you're pursuing living your most aligning life. So recently, especially ever since last week, you guys know I talked about the course that I had planned to teach that didn't pan out the way that I expected. I've really been reevaluating how I want to spend my time, especially in terms of being a new mom and working towards building my whole message here on the podcast. Like, I truly believe in this message so much, but I've really just been reflecting and going inward on how I want to share this message. Like, tangential but connected. I still feel so conflicted about social media. As you guys know, I took a month-long social media break at the beginning of the year. It was so good, and I still am just so conflicted about, I like using it because I like sharing what, is coming to me, like the downloads, I guess you could say, that I have, but it's just such a slippery slope, and there's so much negativity that can come along with it, and so much unconsciousness. So I'm still trying to figure that out, still trying to navigate that, but it's just such a beautiful practice to reevaluate how you're spending your time, what things are truly filling your soul, filling up your bucket, filling up your heart, and what things are being quote unquote energy vampires or soul vampires to you. And just try to do less and less of those things and more of the other things. Again, sounds simple, but so beautiful. Now, another point I really want to hit on when it comes to productivity is worthiness. I see this so much in our jobs, like in myself and my job and the people I work with and other jobs I've had and other people I've talked to, my friends, my family. We can put so much of our worthiness in our productivity and in our work, in our jobs, and what we do. So I'm going to go back to some old school things I used to do in prior podcasts, and that is bring you just our definitions for our words. I find it really interesting to look up the actual definition of a word, because if you think about it, we've just all agreed that this is what this word means. Like, it's an agreement, and sometimes that agreement can be kind of convoluted or disillusioned, or we can misunderstand our agreement on this word. So let's talk about worthiness, because worthiness is a big one that gets in the way when we're trying to live our most aligned lives. And what I have learned from listening to other spiritual teachers, truly enlightened beings, and beings not from this dimension, and everything kind of points to the same message, that we are inherently worthy. We are inherently worthy. So let's break down those two words. Worthiness is basically having importance or value. So of course, that can be a very unaligning place to be, to feel unworthy, to feel like you don't have value or importance. But the truth is, the truth always comes back to that we are inherently worthy. We inherently have importance, and we inherently have value. So what does inherently mean? That means involved in the constitution or essential character of something, belonging by nature or habit. So by nature, by our true essence, by our existence, just by the way we are created, that we came here through nature, we are inherently worthy. We inherently have importance and value. And I just want you to sit with that. I want you, after this episode, to go and meditate on that, go on a drive, go on a walk, and just feel that in every cell of your body. You are worthy no matter what. And I know a lot of times our perspective can get skewed, and we can not believe that inherent truth that we are worthy, and we can feel unworthy, and that leads us to do things that do not serve us. And that's okay. It's a part of the journey. It's a part of the process. I still forget all the time. That's why I'm sharing it here with all of you, to help remind myself. But no matter what, you are inherently worthy. No matter if you're productive or not. No matter if you're going after your dreams or not. No matter if you are accomplishing the things or not. You are always worthy. And I think, I'm not an expert on this, but you guys know I'm interested. I think most religions align with that belief. They may say it in different ways, but they align with that belief as well. And it just gets lost in the messaging somehow, or maybe it just doesn't resonate, doesn't hit. That's how I've been with certain religious messaging. I'm like, oh, that's what they were trying to say? Like, if they just said it a different way, I would have understood it this way. Again, that has to do with our own unique souls, right? Like, different things resonate with us, other things do not, and that's okay. But no matter what, you are inherently worthy. And again, from an evolutionary standpoint, I don't think we were designed to be continually productive. As we know, rest is important, right? But we aren't designed to be go, working towards these things all the time. It's that ebb and flow, that balance. And a lot of times we have to allow what we experience through this journey, through this earth school that we've talked about so many times, right? We are in earth school. We have to allow that experience to be integrated, and that takes time and space. Something may resonate with you. You may be listening to this right now and you're like, yes, but it takes time and space for your body, your soul, your essence to fully integrate that truth, or to remember that truth, because I truly believe a lot of these things are just rememberings. We're just remembering, like, oh yeah, It gets to be this way. I get to remember that I am inherently worthy no matter what. And imagine, like, I feel like a lot of times the misconception is that, okay, if everyone's inherently worthy, we're just gonna like have a bunch of like entitled, spoiled brats going around on this earth, right? Like that's the shadow aspect of that. But no, think about it. If everyone went around acting like, or just knowing that they are inherently worthy, we wouldn't have people acting from hurt. We wouldn't have these traumatizing things happening as much. At least that's what I believe, because people wouldn't be acting from their wounds and their trauma in that sense of feeling unworthy. So many perceived hurtful and ugly things happen because people feel unworthy. A lot of times that can be the motivator to do some pretty yucky things, is we just don't feel worthy, and we're trying to find our worthiness in these externals when it truly always comes from within, and we just have to remember and embody that. So I hope that's what this episode has done for you. Help you remember that you are inherently worthy no matter what. You were designed that way. The fact that you exist means you are worthy just by nature, by the way that this reality works. You are worthy. Your worthiness does not lie in your productivity. It does not lie in your to-do lists or what you cross off on your to-do list. Your worthiness does not lie in your job. It doesn't lie in what you do throughout your day. It lies in your existence. So just tune back into that energy, and I just know you're going to see huge shifts in the way you see your world and the way you show up in your reality. And that's going to have ripple effects in every aspect of your life and in this universe. That's what's going to help make this world a better place. As cheesy as it sounds, that's what I truly believe. When I get overwhelmed by what I may see on the news or what's happening, which I really try to limit that for myself, I always come back to, okay, it starts with the individual. It starts with each of us remembering these truths, that we are inherently worthy and loved and guided, and we are just walking bodies of love and compassion. We just have too much stuff on top of it to remember that sometimes, and that's okay. It's all part of the process. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing that happens in internal guidance sessions, is souls really get to remember and tune into that energy, that they are love, they are compassion, they are all of those things, and you get to feel it on a visceral level. By the way, I know you can hear that bird pretty loud. I hope that hasn't been too distracting. I think it's kind of cool to have nature sounds in the background of my podcast, so I hope it doesn't take away from the message. Of course, share any feedback you have with me over on Instagram at Lindsay with an A.M. Tanner. I am still on Instagram, even though, I just want to find some peace around social media. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that too. How are you feeling about social media in this time and space? Please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. Word of mouth is so powerful, and I just want to help as many people as possible live their most aligning lives. I am so grateful for every single one of you. I'm sending you all the highest vibes, and of course, I will see you next week on Alignment Adventures.